Hello everyone, my name is Hannah. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to day 5 of Bookmas. So I've got my little mug of tea here that says it's the most wonderful time of the year. My mom got this for me. And I'm drinking peppermint tea with honey, if anybody cares. But today I'm going to be talking about the top 10 books that I want to pick up next year in 2022. So these are the books that I have on my radar right now that I definitely want to get to soon. So I'm putting them on this list in hopes that I will read them next year and stop putting them off. The first book on this list is Witch Shadow by Susan Dennard. That is the fifth or fourth, I don't know what we're calling it, in the Witchlands series. So I don't know if you can see this here, but Truth Witch is the first book. Then Wind Witch, then Sight Witch is like the novella, like 2.5, but maybe it's classified as 3, I'm not sure. Then Blood Witch, then Witch Shadow. And I reread that series this year in hopes of like being prepared for Witch Shadow when it came out. And then when Witch Shadow did come out, I was in a romance reading mood, not a fantasy mood, so I haven't read it yet. But I am back into a like magical realism fantasy mood, so I want to pick up Witch Shadow basically right away because the story is still pretty fresh in my mind and I don't want to wait too long to pick it up. But I am very eager to see where the story is going to go because I really, really like the Witchlands series. So I want to know, what's going to happen and where the characters are going to go here. The next book on my list that I definitely want to get to next year is Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson. So I read An Enchantment of Ravens, I don't know, a few years ago, and I did not like that book, but then I decided to give this author a second chance instead of just reading one book and saying, okay, I'm done with her books. So I read Sorcery of Thorns, and I loved that book, so I'm definitely eager to see how I feel about Vespertine. It sounds really good, and like I said, I'm in that fantasy reading mood again, so I probably will want to pick that one up soonish. I don't think I'll have time to read that one in December, but that's one that I might pick up like in January or February of next year and try to check that one off my list. Next on my list is Under Lock by Mariana Zapata. I have been reading lots of Mariana Zapata books lately, and I'm not in a super romance reading mood right now, but I do want to read more Mariana Zapata because she is a favorite romance author. I've read and loved most of her books that I've read. I know there's still several that I haven't read yet, and Under Lock is one that I am very interested in that I just haven't gotten to yet. So when I am in the mood for romance, I'll be picking this one up for sure. The next book I want to try to read in 2022 is Pestilence by Laura Thalassa. So this is the first book in the Four Horsemen series, and it's like a fantasy romance about like the apocalypse and the like Four Horsemen personified, right? Like Pestilence as a person. And I read Laura Thalassa's Bargainer series, which the first book is Rhapsodic, and I loved the series so much. So I definitely want to read more from her. And this is the same kind of like vein of romance with like a magical twist to it. Not necessarily magic, but like, you know what I mean with the Four Horsemen. So I'm definitely interested in picking that one up. It sounds really good. The next book I have on this list is a poetry collection, and that is Devotions by Mary Oliver. I heard about this book or this poetry collection first from Morgan Long. She said that basically all these poems are about like our connection to nature, and they're very like beautiful, and I don't know, they just sound really, really good. And Morgan has read like some poetry from Mary Oliver like on her channel in her videos, or like showed it or something, and that just really makes me want to read it. So like I said, this is a poetry collection, so I might pick this one up and read a few poems here and there throughout the year, but I definitely do want to read it next year. Then the next book is Everyone's an Alien When You're an Alien Too by Jomny Sun. This is like a graphic novel, I think. Like, it has little illustrations in it, but I saw this on Chloe's channel from Books with Chloe, and she just talked about how this book really makes you think about life and like happiness, and I don't know, it just seems really like heartwarming and uplifting, and I really want to read it. It looks really cute. That seems like something that would be fun to read for like a 24-hour readathon. So I'm adding it to this list because I really, really do want to read it. So hopefully I can read it like right away at the beginning of the year next year. Then taking a turn, the next book is a horror book, and that is Into the Drowning Deep by Mira Grant, who is also known as Shauna McGuire. Mira Grant is just a pen name. And I, very rarely read horror books, but when I'm in the mood for something scary, I want to pick this one up because, first of all, I love Shauna McGuire and Shauna McGuire's writing, so I think that I'll really like this one. And it's about killer mermaids, which sounds really interesting, like Mariana's Trench killer mermaids. So maybe if there's like a horror thriller readathon, this might be a good one to pick, but I definitely want to pick it up because I'm curious. I'm not typically in the mood for scary books, but when I am, this is the first one that I want to try to pick up. Then again, taking another turn away from horror, these next two books are classics, and I have this edition of Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and I know that there's several other books in this edition. It's illustrated by Marjolaine Baston, and there's like pretty like floral illustrations throughout it, but it's also got like stuff included in it, like there's the letter and stuff, and I want to get this edition in these next two books. The first one is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, and I've wanted to read Wuthering Heights for a long time, but I think if I can get it in this edition and then follow along with the audiobook, I think that will be perfect. So I really, really want to get to Wuthering Heights next year. I've wanted to read that book for years now, and I think now is finally the time. I just need to get a pretty edition of it and get the audiobook, and then I'll be all set. Then same goes for Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. Got the Bronte sisters going on. I really want to read Jane Eyre, and I have for a while, and I think if I just get that special edition and the audiobook for it so I can follow along, but then also like see all the pretty illustrations in these books, I think that's going to be the perfect way to read that, because I'm not a huge fan of classics, but when I read it via audiobook, it just works so much better for me. I do have this really cool old copy of Jane Eyre. That's like, it's got a note in here. I can't read what it says. Mrs. something M something, 1933, Chicago, Illinois. So like, how cool is that? And like the pages are like really old. So I don't want to read this edition of it because I don't want to like ruin the pages or something, but it's a really, really old copy, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I really want to read Jane Eyre. I've read retellings of Jane Eyre, like different adaptations of Jane Eyre. So I know the story pretty well, but I've never read the original story, and I definitely want to read it. So hopefully 2022 is the year that I can do that. And then the last book on my list that I want to get to next year is The Immortalists by Chloe Benjamin. Like I said before, I'm in a very magical realism mood right now, so that's probably influencing this list a little bit. But I saw that Ashley from Ashley's Little Library read and loved this book. She said this is one of her favorite books. And Ashley and I have very, very similar reading tastes. There's maybe, a couple handfuls of books that we don't agree on, but most books, like if Ashley likes it, I can pretty much bet that I'm going to also like it. So she says she loves this book, and it's like a magical realism book about these siblings who I think they live forever, or they get their like fortunes told and they find out like when and how they're gonna die or something like that. I don't exactly know, so I don't want to say too much about it because I'll probably get it wrong, but it just seems like it would be, a good magical whimsical time, and if Ashley liked it, I'm pretty sure that I'll like it too. So I really want to get to this one, and I don't think I'll have time to get to it in December, so I do want to pick it up pretty soon next year. So yeah, that is the list of the top 10 books that I want to get to in 2022. Hopefully I can make time for these books. I know I am a hardcore mood reader, so these are the books that I distinctly want to get to next year as of right now, but if my mood changes and then, I want to pick up other books, I'm just going to go with it. I'm going with the flow from now on, because anytime I try to fight the flow, it just doesn't work out for me. So yeah, please let me know if you've read any of these books and if you think that I'll like them, and let me know what your like top book that you want to get to next year is, or top 3, because I'd be so interested to hear that. Yeah, just leave a comment down below. It can be about anything, honestly. I just love comments so much because they just make my day. And thank you all so much for watching this video, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye!